Hello, welcome to Take 10 on Tuesdays with the Tennessee Tribune. My name is Sandra Long Weaver and I'm the editorial director for the Tennessee Tribune. And today our guest is Dr. Siv Brown. And she has been named National Association of Black Journalists Educator of the Year. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy, thrilled to be back.
Yes, that's right.
So to return and to be on this side of the camera.
That's
because normally I'm on that side.
Right. That's exactly true. So I get a chance to talk with you, and I have to say I am very proud of the fact that you are NABJ Educator of the Year. We've known each other for a few years, and I am a founder of the organization. But it is so wonderful to know that you are helping to educate the next generation of journalists coming into our business. You are a professor at Belmont University, and tell me a little bit about how long you've been there and what are you teaching now?
Okay. I've been very fortunate to be at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. For those who may not, who see this online and don't know where Belmont is, it's in Nashville. I've been there. This will be my 13th academic year.
Oh wow!
So I'm very excited.
Quite that long.
I know. I looked up and I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to be there. Currently, I am teaching courses primarily that I've created. Several courses I've created include digital citizenship, and that course looks at civility, how we act online. How should we act online? I'm dealing with privacy issues. I'm dealing with security issues, etiquette issues, law, etc. So it's really a course that could be important. Exactly, and it could be many different courses in one. So that's one. The other one, entrepreneurial media, teaching our journalists and all of our students to think like a hustler, to really think that I may not have a 40-hour-a-week job, and given the climate and how it's changing, you probably will not.
Right. So then what should you do?
Exactly. So that's what that course focuses on. And then I also do social media reporting. So, and in there I take a little bit of a different take. You know, we do some Twitter, but I really focus on their source verification, making sure the information that we are receiving is accurate. How do you utilize tools like Google Hangout or Skype video conferencing tools to do good journalism? And then also we've utilized Twitter for Twitter chats, and just helping them understand, you know, you don't just throw the camera on and you're a journalist. You know, you have to do some research, you have to do some background, you know, get the information. And online there's so many opportunities to use infographics, to use photos, to use interviews that you've already done and incorporate them into
your story
or your program,
or your blog, or
your blog. It could be your blog, it could be your Google Hangout, it could be your Twitter chat, etc. But there's work that we do ahead of time that a lot of people don't understand. They take it for granted. They think we just throw the camera on, you sit down, and we just go.
No, there's a lot of research that goes into what we do. And actually I want to back up a little bit because when I went online too, I wanted to say, well, what is the criteria for naming the Journalism Educator of the Year? And it recognizes the service, the commitment, the academic guidance of an outstanding journalism teacher or professor, and helping to increase the number of black journalists in our newsroom. And teaching and plans and speeches that you may have done. So I wanted to talk to you just a little bit more about the academic guidance. And are you seeing black students come through Belmont? Belmont is a predominantly white university, so I'm not sure how many black students are enrolled in journalism education.
Okay. I have students everywhere. I have some at Belmont, some from Tennessee State, some on other parts in other parts of the country. So I'm a mentor's mentor.
Great.
The funny thing now, you know, people charge for coaching. That's mentoring, in a lot of cases. But people are now paying for it, which is very interesting. But I mentor strangers. I mentor if I'm going through the drive-through at Starbucks. I'm mentoring, asking the question: are you in school? What are your dreams? What are your hopes? So it's a consistent, conscious part of my being. So it's not just on campus. So no, you may not have a whole lot, but we have growing numbers of minority students at Belmont. But they're there. And there's students, of course, Tennessee State, Fisk, etc., whom I work with as well. So when you ask the question, what am I telling them, what am I sharing with them now, more so, finish what you start. You know, we've got a huge issue with students dropping out and or switching schools.
Oh, really?
And that's becoming a problem. It's a huge problem because, you know, once you drop out, then you owe that student loan debt. Whatever loan you took out will come due because you're switching schools. In so doing, you knock yourself out of the game. And I really received and I'm going to shift gears to answer the question from a different approach, because I received a great Facebook inbox today asking me advice for a gentleman whose daughter is going to Howard. Oh. And as I was answering that question, I thought about our pending interview. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what should you be doing? Mm-hmm. You know, that's what we need to be telling people. Mm-hmm. What do these kids need to be doing? Mm-hmm. To be a journalist, you still have to read.
Exactly.
You need to be reading.
Every day.
Read a book a week, mm-hmm. ideally, mm-hmm. on different topics. Mm-hmm. Fiction, nonfiction. You want to be as well versed as you can be. Mm-hmm. You want to read articles. You want to read blogs. Indeed, you should be reading every day some publications. You know, Twitter isn't just a toy. Mm-hmm. You know, I utilize Twitter to follow the BBC, to follow The Guardian, to follow TechCrunch, to follow all of our local media, to follow our national media, to follow media in my hometown of North Chicago, Illinois, mm-hmm. so that I'm informed. I want to make sure if I'm going to a school that I find a mentor, that I find a faculty member who can help guide me through that academic process, and also write letters of recommendation. This is something students don't think about. Mm-hmm. You know, hey, I need to have more than one faculty member whom I'm close to, right, so that when it comes time for opportunities and recommendations, I have access. Mm-hmm. So students don't always think about that. Oh. They don't always think about who's watching them in public situations, because everyone does have a camera. Everyone is recording. Right. So, you know, we snap pictures right before this interview. Why? Mm-hmm. To verify we are where we say we are. We are doing what we say we're doing. Mm-hmm. So people can see that snapshot. They see us in action. Right. It's not you bragging. Mm-hmm. It's you demonstrating what you do. Right. So I'm hoping I got to the question from a different direction.
No, I like your answer, and it's very funny. I also received a request from mm-hmm. a student asking me what should she be doing to get ready for next summer. She wants to make sure that she lands an internship, and my advice mm-hmm. Was, you know, make sure that you're on the student publications, that you're mm-hmm. writing something every Absolutely. Day, and you're reading and checking with your journalism department. So mm-hmm. What you said, I will add to the advice
and same here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, yeah. So
and the current affairs.
Right. Exactly.
You know, that's what's killing a lot of students.
Yeah,
they can't pass
the
test. Yeah, they can't pass the test. You're not going to get a job.
Right. They know about entertainment, but they don't know about the news, mm-hmm. and that's mm-hmm. what's
and there's a difference.
Critical. It is. It's a
mm-hmm.
very big difference. Mm-hmm. So we have to keep that going. But you are the first NABJ Educator of the Year from Tennessee, so this is a wonderful thing.
Really, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So well, that's a bonus then.
Yeah. Can't say
represent Tennessee. Represent Tennessee.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you've also, besides educating in the classroom, you also educate through writing, through your books. And mm-hmm. Last year you published Innovate. Mm-hmm. And tell us...
2 years ago, believe it or not.
Oh, is it
That's
already
2013.
2 years? Oh, my goodness. I was thinking it was last year. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Innovate. Okay. And why you decided to do that and how it's going.
All right. I'll give you a refresher and then a tease to the next project. Okay. How about that?
That's very good.
So, Innovate Lessons from the Underground Railroad basically mm-hmm. argues that the Underground Railroad is among the most effective, innovative, and disruptive networks in U.S. history. Okay. Arguably, the Internet will take that position, mm-hmm. but if you look historically, disruptive networks appear outside of existing systems. People ignore them. It's not there. It won't work. I just don't deal with it. Mm-hmm. And then it will disrupt the existing system. What Craigslist did to newspapers, what the iPod, iTunes did to the music industry, what's happening to the movie industry through Netflix and other sources. All of this is happening on a continuous basis. But it's nothing new.
Right.
You know, people talk about word of mouth communication. Well, had it not been for word of mouth, how would enslaved Africans have communicated with each other at funerals? As they were viewing the yes. body, mm-hmm. passing on information for the next plan of action. Mm-hmm. Because 2 or 3 could not gather after Denmark Vesey's right. attempted uprising mm-hmm. that another slave told on Denmark Vesey, connected mm-hmm. to Emmanuel, the Mother Church in Charleston. So a lot of history connecting. Right. And you know, when you think about this book and the timing of it, it could not have been better to give people that thumbnail sketch of history. If you didn't get it in school, this is 150 pages or less explaining to you what's happening. Mm-hmm. But as you start to think through and connect this history, in particular with journalism, since we're talking about journalism, Maria Stewart is believed to be the first black female journalist. And she worked on The Liberator mm-hmm. with William Lloyd Garrison up in Boston. Oh, wow. You know, we just celebrated recently, I think yesterday or the day before, was Ivy Wells' birthday.
Yeah, 153rd birthday.
Right. Yes. And so now, which I loved, mm-hmm. there's a wonderful article about her being a data journalist.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't see that one.
Because that's what she did. Yeah. Chronicling the number of lynchings.
Right.
You know, to the total chagrin of those richer African Americans who were in the Memphis area who told her not to because she was going to ruin their livelihoods by talking about lynching. But the history of the Underground Railroad all connects to Ida B. Wells, to the Civil Rights Movement, etc. When you begin to look at the problems we had then, we're having the same problems now. You're dealing with freedom issues, boundaries, access, and privacy. Then enslaved Africans wanted to protect their privacy. They wanted the right to bathe in private. They wanted the right to have intimate relationships in private. They fought for that right.
Yes.
Now it feels like we're outsourcing. We're giving any and everybody access to our data online. So when I talk, I try to make it real. I try to bring it home so people can see these parallels, and hopefully we can finally learn some of the lessons we desperately need to learn before we repeat them again.
I hope so. Now tell us a little bit about your next project.
The next project, I grew up in a wonderful church in the city of North Chicago, Illinois. And our pastor growing up, the late pastor, would always talk about no worky, no eaty. That was one of his favorite phrases, no worky, no eaty. And then he would grab a shoe shine rag, because he was from Louisiana. So he would break it down, shining shoes, popping this rag. And so as kids, you just watched him in awe and amazement. Because, part of the show, I'm like, he probably was a well-paid shoe shine man because he had a good
knew how to do
entertainment value. I started working at 11 years old. People keep asking me, how did you do what you've done? You work. And you focus. And you learn. Because once you learn, then you don't work anymore. There's a shift. And so I started working at 11 years old. I started filing in my dad's office. He was an insurance agent. So I filed. That was at 11. At 13, I started babysitting. But somehow I knew how to hustle even then because I didn't stop filing. I added.
So you had 2 jobs.
Right. So then by the time I was 15, I had 3 jobs. I was bagging groceries. Mind you, my parents never made me work and I didn't have to work. This was the thing. It's so frustrating to me. People are like, well, you had this and you had... I worked because I wanted to. So for me to have my own drive when I didn't have to, I think speaks more. When I could have easily just said, you know what, I'm going to chill. Mom and Daddy got me, so I'm good. But that wasn't my attitude and that was not the case. And so I really want to just dissect my personal experiences to give young people lessons and ideas, but also as we go forward now that people really have to do the hustle because they're getting downsized, they're losing jobs, laid off, fired, no job. And so you have to think differently. So that's what I'm pouring my heart and soul into that. There's a model that I normally share when I'm speaking, and I know somebody's going to take it in a minute if I don't go ahead and claim my own model that I created myself. So that's part of it too, and looking at different income streams. And how do we create that? How do we make things make money for us while we sleep, which was in the book of Earl Graves, I think, of Black Enterprise, or either John H. Johnson. One of those 2 books. I've read many books too. One of those 2 talks about making money while you sleep. Whether that be somebody buying a book, buying a CD, whether that's real estate, whether that's stocks, whatever it is, you want things to make money while you sleep. So in this economy, in this century, I think it's a timely work that I have to get done. So that's why I'm putting it on film, that I'm working on it.
Oh, great. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for joining us today. Dr. Brown will receive the Educator of the Year Award at the 40th anniversary of NABJ in Minneapolis on August 9th during the Gospel Brunch. So congratulations again, and continue to teach.
Thank you. I'm going to add one quick thing.
Yes.
Because professionally, I go by Dr. Sib because I changed my last name from my married name to my maiden name, and in social media space, that's a whole new conversation. So that's a future blog post coming, how it's felt to try to wrestle my identity back. Because it's hard to do. And women now have a different decision to make. So, of course, that'll probably be the future project, too.
Okay. All right. We look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.